like the American Rescue Plan Act, that really provided an opportunity for us. As much as the federal government is able to get resources directly into the hands of cities, particularly directly into the hands of mayors, that's how you get things done. That's how you get things done. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic off to my colleague, Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez. Mayor.
Here in Wisconsin, it's not my first time. I won't talk about the last time I was here, before the first presidential debate. But I'm honored to be here on behalf of America's mayors, representing the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the Republican Mayor of Miami, and past president of the Conference of Mayors. Like I said, we have a choice. We have a choice as to whether we are going to succumb to the continuous division and toxicity that we've been seeing in our politics, or whether we're going to rise above that and focus on the issues that propel our success and our prosperity. As Mayor Johnson said, he articulated a lot of issues that are key to the success of ecosystems and cities like Miami, like Milwaukee. We may not always agree on what the answers are. We may not always agree on the solutions. But mayors have a tendency not to get disagreeable. We fundamentally understand that each one of us work really, really hard to try to solve the problems of our cities. We love our residents. Unlike other governments, we can't hide. We are at the grocery store. We are at the gas stations. People are tapping us on the shoulder, and they rely on us, and they need us. And so, I'm grateful to be here during this convention, articulating issues that are near and dear to the hearts of Miamians, Milwaukeeans, others throughout America. And of course, our hearts are with the former president who narrowly escaped a very devastating injury. And our hearts are with the family of Corey and his family. Lost his life and those who were seriously injured in the events that transpired last week.
The National League of Cities, representing 19,000 cities, towns, and villages all across this great nation. You know, as mayor and president of the NLC, I know something about America's cities, towns, and villages. I know, for example, that we are the places, we are the level of government where things get done. Because as my colleagues up here have said, we really don't have an alternative. Trash has to be collected, potholes have to be filled, police have to be on our streets, fire departments have to protect us against disasters. These are things that must be done at our level. We don't have the luxury of being partisan in most cases. So every day, local leaders at our level are reaching across their personal differences, their partisan intentions to make things work, to solve local problems, and to build better communities for our residents. So when we saw something like that assassination attempt, in my words, the attempt to murder democracy, that strikes us in a way that it doesn't strike normal other elected officials. That violence is a reminder of the responsibilities we all have as leaders to create stronger communities and to act swiftly to disavow hate and violence wherever we find it. It was a reminder of what, quite frankly, our fellow mayors and council members and aldermen have known for way too long, that hate and violence towards elected officials in our country has been rising and it must end. We have done some work on this at the NLC, and the survey results are not hopeful. This is an ongoing challenge that all of us face. We have been facing a breakdown in our abilities to work with people. We might have a different view of our community and a different view of our problems, but we have to be larger than that. This weekend had an attack on all Americans, a vile act of violence that could have been, so easily could have been, so much worse. And as leaders, we have a responsibility to model better ideals for our democracy, this democracy that we hold so dear. We believe that engaging with our neighbors, we can find that better place. We believe that violence has no place in our political system, no place in this democracy. And we believe that we use elections to resolve our differences. But we also know that we can't do this work, this incredibly important work, to residents of this nation. Someone has estimated that 97% of a person's quality of life is due to the work of local government. As representatives of that local government, we know we cannot do that job well without strong federal partnerships, which is why you see us here today. It is really important, incredibly important, that local government have a strong partner in the federal government, not just in the legislature, not just in the administration, not just in all the agencies, but also in the person of the President of the United States. With this in mind, NLC has launched our 2024 Presidential Task Force, worked on initiatives, and are partnering with presidential campaigns to work on a set of goals that all of us can agree upon. Things like ensuring that local government has a seat at the table when federal decisions are made, promoting good governance and direct support to local government to the greatest extent possible, and celebrating civil discourse and strong engagement in the democratic process. In this task force and in our daily work, we're making our voices heard, and we're building relationships with the next administration, regardless of how this election turns out, to ensure that local governments play a key role in the next administration. He's in 1982, and this is his quote. He said, "I believe you are the hope of our nation. I put my faith in the American people and in the quality of leaders they elect to local office." I think all of my fellow local elected officials will agree that President Reagan got it right when he said he put his faith in the men and women who serve in local government. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to taking your questions, but at this time, I'm going to turn over this microphone to Councilmember Borelli.
I called some of his top people. And I said, as the leading Republican in this city, I want you to put my face as big as you possibly can on the application for the DNC. Why? Because if something's good for New York City, our economics, a celebration of our democracy, if it's good for New York City, I want to be a part of it. And it's that bipartisan spirit that really forms the crux of why we're here today. Each of these men behind me, and mayors and council members and county leaders around the country, all have very unique challenges. And we know them intimately. But I'm confident that if we talk, and we do talk quite often, when we talk to all the leaders around the country, there are certain themes. And whether you're in Milwaukee, you're in Chicago, you're in New York, you're in Rancho Cordova, you're in Miami, you're in Tallahassee, you're in anywhere, you're in Omaha, the themes over and over again are housing and public safety. Housing and public safety. Again, we all have our unique problems, but it always comes back to housing and public safety. So I don't know who's going to win in November. I have my pick. I have my candidate. I trust it might be different from Mayor Kevin Johnson's. But whoever wins, we hope that they make investing in cities and addressing the problems of urban America a priority. We saw that with this administration. We saw that with the last Trump administration. We want that to continue, and that's what we're collectively saying. So thank you, and I'll call back up Mayor Johnson.
I think we can agree to that, right? We all certainly have our selections, but regardless of who our selection is, all of us want to make sure our selection for president is. But regardless of whoever that selection is, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's President Joe Biden, we want for whoever the occupant of the White House is to prioritize cities. Because what's good for cities is good for America. And we heard a quote from President Ronald Reagan. I can tell you a quote that I've heard directly from President Joe Biden when he talks about local government, particularly the role of mayor. I know certainly council members as well are included in this, which, by the way, I'd like to recognize Milwaukee Alderman from the 7th District, DeAndre Jackson, who's joined us as well. Thank you for being here, Alderman. But President He often says this, and he said it to us just last week, Tuesday, when myself and a number of mayors from across the country joined him on a phone call. He said that this is the hardest job. This is the hardest job in American politics. And you heard Mayor Suarez mention it as well. Because folks know where you live, they see you at the grocery store, they tap you on the shoulder, right? And so they can reach out to their mayors, they can reach out to their council members as well. And so with that, we're happy to take a couple questions. I'll play the role of moderator, MC, and I'm not going to be stingy with Mike, so if anybody wants to.
Phase 2 with the RNC, and you have so many people in town. What does your schedule look like? Who are you meeting with each other?
Thank you, Mayor. We're meeting with any official that wants to meet with us on these issues. Obviously, we're going to be at the convention, and there'll be a lot of opportunities to interact with the campaign, with various elected officials at the federal level. We're talking about a railroad bill that J.D. Vance was advancing as a senator. Now he's obviously running as vice president. So how that interacts with the cities in this part of the country. But certainly in Miami, we're always focusing on many of the issues. All these things are focused on affordable housing, crime and safety, resiliency, climatic resiliency, are things that interact with federal legislation.
Thank you.
Johnson, since Saturday's shooting, what have you been briefed on? What have you been updated on security-wise? And how have things changed with this convention since Saturday?
Sure. Folks didn't hear questions about how things have changed relative to security at the Republican National Convention in light of the tragic. And I want to emphasize that and stress that it was tragic. It was horrific. That should have never happened. Nobody should be in a position in America where they are subject to that sort of violence. It shouldn't happen to kids going to schools, as we've seen in this country. It shouldn't happen to churchgoers, as we've seen in this country. It shouldn't happen to folks going into the grocery store. And it certainly shouldn't happen to a candidate for president of the United States of America. So I know I've had the opportunity to wish Mr. Trump a speedy recovery. I know he is here now in Milwaukee, so I'm glad that he seems to be doing all right, and we'll be addressing the convention later this week. In relation to security here at the RNC, by definition, because this event is an NSSE, a National Special Security event, by definition it is an event that has a higher security designation than what the rally that was held in Pennsylvania was. So this event already has the highest designation that you can possibly get from the federal government in terms of security. So we've already covered the security points on that. The Secret Service, along with the Milwaukee Police Department, have been working for months and months and months, 18 months in total, I believe, every day, every single week on security for this event. There were some roughly two dozen subcommittees related to every single facet, every single aspect of public safety. And so I think we're pretty well covered. I will go and say, and you probably know this well, Adam, that I was a part of a bipartisan contingency as well to support additional revenue, or just additional resources rather, to support the public safety on the ground here at the Republican National Convention. The financial resources given to cities that host these events was stuck at $50 million from 2004 on. We successfully lobbied Congress, members of Congress in the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, got $25 million more to support security here at the RNC, as well as for the DNC in Chicago as well. And you know this as well here that in Milwaukee, we proactively passed, our council did, and so I want to thank the alderman for that as well, a local ordinance where we prohibited items that could be used as projectile weapons from going into the outer perimeter, or the soft perimeter, as some folks may call it as well. So we've taken those actions to make sure that this is a safe convention for all attendees, everybody attending the convention, whether you're somebody exercising your First Amendment rights, like we saw earlier today, or whether you're a member of the media or a delegate to the convention. I'm going to go here, lady.
Mayor Johnson, I know you said Milwaukee is open for business. We're hearing from business owners who are kind of frustrated, saying their food delivery drivers cannot get inside the perimeter. What advice do you offer to them, and are you working to help sort out this problem?
Yeah, I mean, if folks are having issues with delivery, I mean, they should be in touch with us, and we can work to make sure that we're in touch with the Secret Service or whatever agency necessary to make sure they get the support that they need. Yes.
Eric Green, PWI's News. Mayor, so you were talking about how you want a candidate in the White House to prioritize cities. So I'm curious, Mayor, anybody else, what's the current climate between local and federal officials, and does that sort of climate
The current, I mean, and I'll allow other mayors and council members to state their case as well. From my perspective, the relationship that we have with the federal government is very, very strong in the city of Milwaukee. As I said in my opening remarks, the city of Milwaukee would have been insolvent if it were not for the partnership with President Joe Biden and his administration. I mean, quite literally. If it were not for the American Rescue Plan Act, we would have not had the runway necessary to work, again, in a bipartisan manner with Speaker Voss, with Leader Lemmick in the state Senate, in order to strike a funding deal for Milwaukee to help with additional revenues. As of January 1 this year, we would have had to cut roughly 50% of our police department. They would have been gone. A quarter of the fire department in Milwaukee would have been gone. Hundreds of other municipal employees would have been off the job as of January 1 this year if we were not able to strike that. But the reason we had the space to do that, though, is because of the investments directly in cities provided by President Joe Biden. And it's not even just those dollars that came in, it's the bipartisan infrastructure law. I mean, around this city today, you will see signs and see improvements on the ground because of that law. It's making a difference, it's making an impact on the streets of Milwaukee and streets in communities all across the United States. So as far as my perspective, the relationship between local government and the federal government is very, very strong, and I quite frankly would like to keep it there.
Experiences you have in the past couple of years, I think we can probably provide some additional data on that. But the results were kind of shocking in terms of the number, the high percentage of local elected officials who had endured personal threats and things of that nature.
We can take one or two more questions.
I got a chance to go down to the red, white, and blues welcoming ceremony that was held down at the Summerfest grounds just the other day, and there are people from all over the country who are here experiencing Milwaukee, their first time here, their first time in Wisconsin. Many of them remarked about how wonderful the city this is. Not just that it was their first time here, they've been out exploring in the neighborhoods. That after the convention's over, they'll be coming back. They'll be bringing their families back here and spending time and spending money here. I know that some of the mayors here already have shown interest in bidding on political conventions. Mayor Suarez was talking about Miami being a finalist or somebody at least a city vying for this very convention, as a matter of fact. So they're already looking to do the same sort of stuff that we're doing here in Milwaukee. I know there's the issue of the possibility of bringing those, and we haven't seen, I haven't been briefed on any particular issue with that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. As much as the federal government is able to get resources directly into the hands of cities, particularly directly into the hands of mayors, that's how you get things done. That's how you get things done. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic off to my colleague, Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez. Mayor.
And focus on the issues that propel our success and our prosperity. As Mayor Johnson said, he articulated a lot of issues that are key to the success of ecosystems in cities like Miami, like Milwaukee. We may not always agree on what the answers are. We may not always agree on the solutions. But mayors have a tendency not to get disagreeable. We fundamentally understand that each one of us work really, really hard to try to solve the problems of our cities. We love our residents. Unlike other governments, we can't hide. We are at the grocery store. We are at the gas stations. People are tapping us on the shoulder, and they rely on us, and they need us. And so, I'm grateful to be here during this convention, articulating issues that are near and dear to the hearts of Miamians, Milwaukeeans, others throughout America. And of course, our hearts are with the former president who narrowly escaped a very devastating injury. And our hearts are with the family of Corey and his family, who lost his life and those who were seriously injured in the events that transpired last week.
Together, this event is an NSSE, a National Special Security Event. By definition, it is an event that has a higher security designation than what the rally that was held in Pennsylvania was. So this event already has the highest designation that you can possibly get from the federal government in terms of security. So we've already covered the security points on that. The Secret Service, along with the Milwaukee Police Department, have been working for months and months and months, 18 months in total, I believe.